This is coffee number 5. I'm your host, Lara Schmoisman. Welcome to a new episode of Coffee Number 5. Our guest today is Dr. Sheila Nazarian, a very well-known plastic surgeon. She's the founder of Nazarian Plastic Surgery. Spa 26, she launched the Skin Spot, a collection of medical-grade skincare products, and creator of the Nazarian Institute and Think Big, a space for people who want to expand as a brand. You can also see her in the Netflix show Skin Decision Before and After. Sheila, thank you so much for being here, sipping coffee, number 5 or 6 maybe for me today. But I want to talk to you today. I mean, you're such an example of a powerful woman, but not because of powerful of what you accomplish or who you are today. I think you're such a powerful woman from who you are and where you're coming from. And that's a story that not many people talk about. So who is the real Sheila? Where are you coming from?
Yeah, of course. Nice to be on with you, Lara. Thank you so much for the opportunity. I think it's kind of an underdog story. My mom was 9 months pregnant. She flew from Iran to New York to give birth to me so she could have a citizen as a child. And then flew back to Iran. It was 1979. It was the revolution. And we're Jewish, we're very Jewish, and it would kind of, didn't end up so great for Jews in Iran, unfortunately. A lot of restrictions, we weren't allowed to leave the country. And a lot of this stuff I'm going to tell you I learned recently because my family was very reticent to talk about it. So basically, my dad is a pathologist and he ran the Shah's heart hospital in Iran. And one of his technicians was kind of in the Basij. So he was in the Revolutionary Guard that overthrew the Shah. And it was 1985. It was the Iran-Iraq War. There was bombs everywhere. And my dad had actually saved this technician's eyesight. He had diagnosed him with a parasite in his eye and it saved his eyesight. So the technician came to my dad and said, listen, you saved my eyes. I'm going to save your life. You're on the kill list and you have to leave the country tonight. And so he was basically on this list to be murdered. So he basically left my mom, my sister and I's passport with the government and said he was going on a medical mission and left the country. And so we were kind of there by ourselves for a little while. And there's an organization called HIAS, HIAS, that helped a lot of the Jews get out of Iran at the time. And this is a really interesting story, Lara, that I just found out 3 years ago because it was actually classified information. I was asked to donate to this Persian Jewish organization, as it frequently happens in LA. They were having an event with someone who served in the Carter administration. And I was like, sure, I'll sponsor this event. And I go with my husband. We had no idea who the speaker was. We had no idea what we were getting into. And the guy that was there actually gave us all this information. So Carter, when there was an Iran-Contra issue, they were holding American hostages. Carter gave the mandate to get all Iranians out of America, which meant the Baha'is, which meant the sons and daughters of people who served in the Shah's army. And if they would have been sent back, they all would have been killed. Okay. So this gentleman had actually, heard about what happened during the Holocaust, where a lot of German Jews had asked, Roosevelt to seek asylum in the US and were turned away and they were killed. So when he found this out, he said, if that opportunity ever lands on my desk that I could save lives, I'm going to take it. So what he did is, even though Carter gave the, mandate, get all the Persians out of America, what he did is he went and found out that if Persians file for asylum and the asylum applications are locked in a closet and never looked at, they can't make the Persians leave. And not only that, he worked with these people that helped get me and my family out. So imagine me, I'm sitting in the audience listening to this guy speak, who I don't know who he is, and he single-handedly saved our lives. So he, not only did he prevent the Persians in America to be sent back to Iran, he also allowed other people in Iran to file for asylum applications that he locked in a closet to never be looked at so that we could get in too.
This is an incredible story, and there's so many incredible stories out there. We don't know. I mean, my family went from Russia to Argentina. I mean, we have crazy stories there.
Russia was, are you Jewish too, Laura?
Yeah.
So, Russia was really bad. Really bad. I just recently was on Violet Benson's podcast, and she had a similar story. She's also a Russian Jew. Horrible things happened to her.
Yeah, I'm 100% Russian Jew that immigrated to Argentina. Like, actually, it was really funny. Someone came to my house yesterday and they want to speak Russian to me. They get really offended because they see that I have an accent. It's not the Latin accent, the normal Latin accent, because I'm married to an Israeli. So I got a lot of his accent. But I look so Russian that they cannot deny it that I am 100%. So I want to come back to you. And so you came to the United
Yeah,
States.
so we came to the US, my family, my mom, my sister and I actually escaped on the back of a pickup truck. We went to a bazaar one day, they threw corn on top of us, smuggled us across the border to Pakistan. We were there for 3 months waiting for visas, finally reunited with my dad in Vienna. Came over here, totally ESL, totally fresh off the boat. I always joke like I had a mustache and hairy legs, and my mom wouldn't let me do anything about it, just really nerdy. I was, super smart at the time, but I think I had a bit of imposter syndrome, like, oh, they're going to figure me out. They put me in a gifted class, but they're going to come back and say it was a mistake, or, things like that. But thinking back on it now, it's like, no, I was pretty smart. But it took me a long time to kind of get to the point to know what my strengths are and know what my weaknesses are and be able to speak openly about both. Because as a woman, it's like, oh, if you say you're something you're good at, you're bragging. If you say something you're not good at, you're weak. So it's just,
I'm just so over that. Like, if you're good at something, just say
yeah,
it.
same.
Yeah, it's like, why you gonna, I mean, at some point, you're going to figure it out anyway. So why not? But you found not only such a niche in your life, you found also the understanding of what make people click.
Yeah, I think it's coming from a point of, empathy. I think it's being a nerd, having been teased for being, the way that I was. Lara was super skinny. I mean, people would drop skeletons in my backpack in Halloween.
We're the opposite. I was the overweight girl, so I, I understand you from the other
Yeah,
side.
it goes both ways, I guess. But no, I mean, just always, coming from a place of like, but that fuels you, right? It's like I'm gonna prove people wrong. It can be very motivating, but it can also be very like restrictive. So it took me a while to sort of say, you know what? I'm not doing this to prove anyone wrong anymore. I'm just doing what makes me happy and what fulfills me.
Yeah, and I think that's liberating. I think that's not only you feel like, okay, I can do this, it's like I'm gonna do it whatever you think is right or not, I'm just doing it for me. And that's when you find the real self. And like I always say, like the fact that I can do this podcast, I like my English is self-taught. So I mean, the fact that I'm doing a podcast is like unthinkable for me to speak in English. And you do it at some point. You say, "Why not? I don't give a fuck," and I just do it. It's just for me. It's more important to hear other people's stories.
Yeah, not just that, but when you share people's stories, and I think we all have stories, you inspire others and you say, well, she did it, I can do it. And that has such profound ripple effects that when you're starting, like when I did the Netflix show, honestly, Laura, in my head, it was like, oh, my friends and family are going to see me on TV. But when you start getting messages from like Nigeria and the Philippines and Brazil, like all these places, you're like, holy shit, like everyone's looking at it.
Absolutely, but also it's so humbling to people like send messages to you, and I'm sure you know that there's those two sides of the people that admire you, and the other people say, "Look at her, look what she's doing."
Oh yeah. I've been on the receiving end of the look at her, look what she's doing for many years. But then once you reach a pinnacle, once you reach that turning point, which for me was the show, then everybody becomes team Sheila, like team.
And how do you deal with that with people that you felt like they were like looking at you like, look, what is she doing? And now, oh, we are friends again. How do you deal with that?
I think I don't have that many people that close to me. I always think of it as, I always say, give it like a Thanksgiving or a Shabbat dinner analogy, like what does it take for you for it to feel like Thanksgiving? Do you need the turkey? Do you need the gravy? Maybe you can do with or without the cranberry sauce. You have to figure out who's at the Thanksgiving table of your life, who wants to see you succeed. And those are the people you invest your energy and care about the opinions of. You shouldn't care about the opinions of people who'd rather see you fail.
And absolutely, there are some people that, and I found this in my life changing too, that it's like they enjoy when you fall and they will be there when you fall, but they cannot be there with with you when you succeed.
Yeah.
It was the same thing. I lost 80 pounds at some point of my
Mm-hmm.
life and it was very strange. People that they would never be my friends before, they wanted to be my friends. And the ones that were my friends were, look at her now. And it was, why? I'm still the same person.
And it's always interesting too when it's people who've never met you making the comments. It's like, you've never even talked one word with me. Like, how are you forming your opinion?
This is what I love about podcast. And it's very intriguing for me how this Clubhouse is going to work out too, because it's all about what people have to say. Though I found a lot of people talking without knowing what they're saying. You as a doctor, people come to you, and of course, everyone diagnoses. You know that. And everyone knows what to do and what they want. How do you come with a patient that they say, I know what I need? I know. Would you take any patient?
No, I don't take any patient. I always do a virtual consult first. Like every Wednesday, my day is filled with virtual consults. And it's interesting because the patients, pretty much 80% know that I'm their doctor, but I'm basically interviewing them to see if they're capable of happiness, or if they have realistic expectations, or if they're, just anatomically a good candidate for the procedure that they're seeking. But I rarely have patients coming to me asking me, telling me I need this anymore. They basically come to me, and the trust and the credentialing has already been done on social media and with the show. And so really it's kind of whatever I tell them they need, they want to do that. And at that point, it's kind of like, what's their budget?
Okay. Because I feel like so many people have, I won't say even body dysmorphia, but expectations of having a nose that it doesn't fit their functions.
Right. I mean, that's part of my job, and that's part of my interview process. So when I'm doing those virtual consults, I'm seeing where their brain space is at mostly. Because I can improve something on everyone, right? We can improve the skin, we can improve the eyelids, the breasts, whatever it is, even the labia, the vagina, whatever. I mean, really the question is this person's brain space ready to receive? Are they capable of happiness? Those are the things that I'm constantly evaluating. And if the answer is no, I don't take them on as a patient.
And what about doing it for the right reasons? Because
if it's for the right reasons, I'm here to help.
Yeah, because there's so many people that feel like they're doing all these treatments because there are 1,000 treatments out there, and they just doing it because of how they think that they will be perceived.
Mm-hmm.
And perception is important. Don't get me wrong, but it's not everything. If that perception is there, but your heart and your mind are not in the right place, I mean, you're not going to become smarter by having a surgery.
No, and what's interesting is also, I think, with the branding that we've done and with the digital marketing that we've done, we have very intentionally and strategically put out a voice to that strong, established man or woman who's just looking to optimize. And that's who we attract. We're not everyone's doctor. We're not looking to attract the people that think plastic surgery is going to make them happier, or, save their relationship, or things like that.
I love that. It's more like a maintenance program.
It's like working out. Yeah, it's like working out or eating healthy. It's part of that.
And what I love is that you show a lot of things that you do to yourself. Yeah. I love that you're so open that you say, hey, I get this treatment. There are a lot of people that they show how great they are. They look in a bikini. No, I don't do anything. I do it for my patients only.
Yeah, no. That's when you can speak from, personal experience, and you say, oh, this really doesn't hurt, or this one hurts a little, but it's totally worth it. Trust me,
we all have different tolerance, but it's worth to share experience. I learned early on that there's so many things that people won't talk about, that they have to be secretive. And I learned early on that sometimes if you open about those things, you find out that many people are going through the same problem. And something that I always tell the story that they told me basically my son was Down syndrome because I got a false positive. I cried for 2 weeks. And if I would have talked, probably I would have learned that a lot of people were having the same issue.
Yeah, it's really difficult. I think as immigrants too, it's very difficult because a lot of things are very secretive, for immigrants. I think our kids aren't going to have the same baggage.
I really hope so. Because this is something it fascinates me, the psychology of the cultural, because up to our generation, most of this country we were immigrants mostly, or sons or daughters of immigrants. And there is such a big factor of what it's okay for a woman or a man to do by a rule of culture. And that's what it brings me again to what you do. How much you think that their culture affects in what women or men want to do to their body?
I mean, a lot, especially, 50% of our patients fly in to see us. So they could be flying in from Utah. They could be flying in from Miami. They could be flying in from Dubai. They could be flying in from Alaska. I mean, Canada, like everywhere. So I think culturally it matters. They might even be flying in from the Middle East because they only want a woman doctor, and they'll ask for a completely female OR team, female anesthesiologist, female nurse, female tech, because of their cultural restrictions and who can see them naked, But again, I will tell you, I think that we've niched ourselves to that natural result. Our hashtag is natural by Nazarian. So our whole goal is so no one knows you had anything done. And I will tell you that in and of itself gets rid of a lot of unstable people.
Yeah. But you feel like there are certain, for example, there are certain, I would say, Jewish women. There are certain things that a Jewish woman will never do because they're Jewish.
Like what?
I don't know. It's just wondering that if it's a cultural thing or it's a social thing. I know.
Well, I'll tell you, I think it's more of like I'll tell you something. It's not that a particular procedure, but I've had tons of women get in my chair and be like, I feel so guilty for being here. Like I shouldn't be spending money and time on myself. I feel so narcissistic. But it's funny, Lara, I just tell them, like, do you want your daughter to feel that way when they're an adult? And they're always like, no, I don't want my daughter to feel that way. Well, you have to model that behavior.
Absolutely. I believe that we are the prime examples to our kids. And if you are, and what we were talking earlier today, it doesn't matter how many times you fall, you get up and you try again. And that's what your kids are going to be remembering about you. Not that you did some Botox or some nose job.
No, not at all. I mean, it's interesting. My daughter had her bat mitzvah this year, Zoom bat mitzvah. But the rabbi, got on the thing with her and he said, what is something you admire about your parents? And she said, I admire that my mom sets goals and accomplishes them. And she said, I admire about my dad, his storytelling and his jokes and his, his humor. And the rabbi, it was so cute. He told her, usually when I ask that of bar and bat mitzvahs, they say, I admire how they take care of me. They always say, they bring it back to something that their parents have done for them rather than thinking of their parents as individuals that have accomplished things for themselves. Yeah, so I think they're seeing that. I think they're seeing that behavior that, like, you are your own person. You can have kids, you can have a husband, but you matter as an individual and your goals and accomplishments are seen.
Yeah, I mean, I seen it very early on since I was volunteering in my kids' school that I didn't want to be called like Owen's mom or Mrs. Schmoisman. No, I have a name. I'm Lara, and that's okay. You can still respect me if you call me by my name. But I'm a person beyond my son, even though my son is here. And I always raise them with those values. So you're a mother of three. How do you handle it all?
I think they're pretty independent. I think that's how I do it. I had them all during residency. So I had 2 during general surgery and 1 during plastic surgery. And, we had housekeepers and nannies and stuff to take care of them, basically keep them alive until we got home. But, they still make their own breakfast. They cook dinner for themselves. Sometimes they make breakfast for me. And, they kind of have to fend for themselves and be independent and problem solve because we weren't, even if I was home, maybe I was exhausted or I was sleeping. So
in one hand, as long as you can make those spaces for them, which I know you do.
Yes, I do. I mean, it goes with the caveat, but I will tell you, micromanaging your kids and solving all their problems for them is not beneficial, I think, in the long term. Because, eventually you have to make an independent adult who is capable of keeping a job and following some direction, at least for a certain part of their lives. So I see a lot of times, on Instagram, it'll be like, quit your 9 to 5, follow your dreams and your passions, but they'll help you be successful later in your 30s,
Exactly. And it's the same leading a team. I mean, I'm asked a lot about how I lead my team because it's a large team, and the same for you. And my team is all virtual, and we're a huge family. But at the same time, is my philosophy is that I treat each person in my team like I would like my kids to be treated.
Mm-hmm.
And that doesn't mean fixing all the problems. It's about mentoring them to be better. And yes, of course, they can come to me with questions or problems, but first they need to come back to me with solutions too.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I love that.
So tell me about your team. How do you pick your team? How do you choose a
I know
team?
my strengths and my weaknesses. We discussed that in the beginning. And one of my weaknesses is I always assume people are hardworking and that they're going to do what they said they're going to do. Because in residency and in medical school, in order to go up that level of academics, you have to be a certain way and you're surrounded by people who are the same way. So you just think everyone is honest, going to get the job done, go that extra mile. And that's just not true. So I realized very early on, I probably shouldn't be the one interviewing. So I have my team interview because they've been out there in the real world. They've done a lot of interviews and probably they can choose someone better than I can. So they decide on someone. I shake their hand their first day of work and I say, welcome, but I'll fire next week if it doesn't work out. So I don't let things fester. If it's not the right fit, I'm very quick to fire. I fired 2 people last week.
Oh my God, we are sisters from another mother. We are really twins. Everyone, we're very similar, and it needs to work out, and they need to be a teamwork.
Yeah, and also the way I think, I was very non-confrontational, and I hated doing that, and I would feel super guilty about it, especially if they were a single mother or if they were the primary breadwinner. But I think what you have to do is if somebody's unhappy, you have to set them free to go find their joy. And that made me feel better about firing people.
Not only that, the fact is that many people that they are not team players, they don't realize that this is a domino effect.
Yeah, it is a domino effect. I hear you.
And if it affects you, I will affect. Sometimes I say, you're not even doing it to me. You're doing it to your team.
Yeah, exactly. That matters too.
That matters a lot because that is in the team feelings and how they feel themselves. And we only grow as a team. I don't grow together. I can be by myself. I can be my brand, but I will be nothing without my team.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%.
Okay, Sheila, thank you so much for sharing your story. I feel like very, very touched that you shared that story with me.
Oh, thank you, Lara.
And all your wisdom.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on. Appreciate it.
Thank you for joining us. If you like the show, remember to leave a review. I will really appreciate it. If you want to know more about marketing and myself, follow me on Instagram. My handle is Lara Schmoisman. It was so good to have you here today. See you next time. Catch you on the flip side. Ciao, ciao.